Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Rappahannock in Whitestone, Virginia. My name is Susan Mosley, and I'm the minister for the UUFR community. I'm going to be your service leader this morning. We offer a video service like this one once a month during the pandemic. It gives us an opportunity to hear from other speakers. Today, our speaker is the Reverend Pam Philips from the UU congregation in Blacksburg, Virginia. I'm so glad to welcome Pam, and I will say more about her a little later in the service. At UUFR, we are a caring community whose mission is to put UU principles into practice through programs that empower spiritual exploration, critical thinking, and social service, and also to provide a spiritual home for future generations. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. With humility and courage, born of our history, we are called as Unitarian Universalists to build the beloved community where all souls are welcome as blessings and the human family lives whole and reconciled. With this vision in our hearts and minds, we light our chalice now. Our opening words this morning are from the 7 Principles in Word and Worship, which is a book we offer to all of our new members when they join UUFR. So hear these opening words this morning. Welcome to this place of possibility. This is love's hearth, the home of hope, a refuge for minds in search of truth unfolding, ever beautiful, ever strange. Here, compassion is our shelter, freedom our protection from the storms of bigotry and hate. In this place, may we find comfort and courage. Here, may our sight become vision to see the unseen, to glimpse the good that is yet to be. As a caring community that cares deeply about one another, when we are together in our beautiful sanctuary for worship, the sharing of our joys and concerns has become a very sacred ritual for us. The reason is because when you share your joys, they become amplified. When we share our sorrows, those sorrows are lessened. We are not able to be together in person right now, but we are still together in spirit. And so the ritual of joys and concerns is as important in this video worship as it is in person. And I'm going to take this moment to offer the symbolic gesture of placing a piece of sea glass in the water chalice on our behalf, or a couple of pieces. I begin with my joys. I am actually very thankful for those in our fellowship who have recovered from the virus and are healthy again. And I'm excited that several in our fellowship have already received their very first vaccine, and some have received the second. That gives us all hope, and it's worth celebrating. I want to offer a prayer now for all of those individual joys and celebrations that we can't hear together, but that are very much a part of each of our lives. So this piece of glass is for those. We also carry sorrows in our hearts. Life in a pandemic is about living with anxiety and loneliness and fear. Many of us have lost friends and loved ones over these past few months. I want to offer a prayer for those collective worries and private sorrows. May comfort and courage be ours today and in the days ahead. And may we remember each other and to hold one another in our hearts. Our reading this morning is taken from a writing, an article titled Feminist Musings on Community by Beverly Harrison. Harrison was a feminist theologian who taught at Union Theological Seminary in New York City for 32 years. This is what she says about the concept of community. While there is no question that community is critical to any adequate spirituality, theological integrity also requires facing squarely the serious limitations of imaging community primarily with the constraints of family, most especially the nuclear family of late modernist capitalist political economy. There are several limitations to the family metaphor that reinforce social injustice. To some extent, the metaphor encourages us to equate community with biogenetic connection and ethnicity, and worse, by extension, with shared culture and the comforts of cultural familiarity. Is it any wonder that Black feminists and womanists and other colorful women have pointed out how insensitive white women are to diversity and difference? Biological familiarism leads us to presume that community is present when similarity and shared culture is present. Community seems to have nothing to do with encountering the unfamiliar, the new, that which stretches and challenges us, and with the images of family foremost when we reflect on community, we tend to imagine that community is primarily a matter of warm feeling and subjective liking of others.
Give up the fight for some other moment, some other life than here and now.
I'm just gonna breathe.
Give up the longing for some other world, the wishing for other choices to make.
Other songs to sing, other bodies, other ages,
other countries, other stakes.
Till I touch the sorrow neath the rage. I'm just gonna breathe.
Purge the past. Forgive the future. For each comes too soon.
Surrender only to this life, this one, this moment here and now.
Surrender only to this day, this hour, this breath.
Not because it does not constantly break your heart, but because it too beckons with beauty,
startles with delight. If only we can keep waking up to this gift. This is the gift we have been given.
These body clothes.
This heartbreak, it's ours. This pulse, it's ours.
This breath. This light. These friends.
This hope. All we can do is remember ourselves here.
I'm just gonna breathe.
All a part of it all. Still growing together.
I'm just gonna breathe. Until I'm glad to breathe here for a while. We'll give up the fight for some other love. There's hope in the way that you are living. give up the fight for some other life. It's changing, no longer resisting. Come on and breathe, breathe, breathe. Come on and breathe, breathe, breathe. It's gonna breathe, breathe, breathe. Come on and breathe, breathe, breathe. Give up the fight, breathe, breathe. For some other life, breathe, breathe. Give up the fight, breathe, breathe. For some other life, breathe, breathe. I'm just gonna breathe.
This is a time in our service for meditation and prayer. I have something I'd like to share with you, a meditation that ends as a prayer. Listen to these words. I wonder if the river ever despairs of its downward destiny and harbors a secret desire to flow up. I wonder if winter yearns to be summer, or if a flower wishes it could bloom out of season. I wonder if silence would like to shout, or if the sky wants to fall down and become the earth. I wonder if the bird longs to become a rabbit, or if the fish ever dreams of walking on the land. I wonder if the mountains envy the valleys, or if snow secretly covets the warmth of June. I wonder if the moon complains that it is not the sun, or if the stars envy the earth. I wonder if rain prefers a cloudless sky, or if grass tires of green and hopes for blue. I wonder if spring really likes growing, or if fall rages against its colorful dying. I wonder if the world ever sighs after more than it is, as we do. As we do. O Spirit of life, we struggle against our limitations. Teach us to accept them. Amen. A religious community is much like a river, formed from the many streams of our lives, and that meet and merge and flow to the sea. As members and friends of this religious community, we are meant to share our time and energy, our creativity and imagination, our talents, skills, and gifts. And in doing so, we help to create a river that is both deep and broad. This fellowship depends also on our shared financial support that makes real our shared values and vision. We will now receive an offering for the support of this religious community and its work in the world. You are invited to give generously and joyously as you are willing and able. It is my pleasure to introduce you to the Reverend Pam Philips. Reverend Pam is the minister serving the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Blacksburg, Virginia. Reverend Pam has served UCC since August 2017, and before that, she was a member of Thomas Jefferson Memorial UU Church in Charlottesville. Prior to her training and ordination, Pam was a teacher for 20 years in the Albemarle County Public Schools. Reverend Pam's sermon title is We Are Family. Welcome, Pam.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Pam Philips, and I serve the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Blacksburg, Virginia. I am so glad to be joining you today to talk about family. Family. We are family. I got all my sisters with me. Anyone who was around in the late 70s probably remembers that song. It was a hit by Sister Sledge, and it was part of the soundtrack of my freshman year in college. I remember being down in the common room of my dormitory with that song blasting from a stereo, dancing in a circle, each of us taking turns in the center. It was exhilarating, dancing and singing with other young women whom I trusted enough to let loose and dance. It was out of character enough for me that I remember it after all these years. Anyone else remember the days of disco? I've had that song rattling around in my brain for a few weeks now as I've been thinking about what it means when we say that our Unitarian Universalist congregations feel like family. I know as a young adult, my congregation definitely felt like family. I felt loved there. I felt seen there. I felt like I belonged. Especially as a single person, having a church family was an important part of my life and my well-being. When I was going through a hard time, I could count on my church family to hold me. I could stand up during joys and sorrows and share what was heavy on my heart. And I felt supported by the expressions of love and care after the service. And when my life was especially fine, I wanted to share my joy with my church family. Have you had similar feelings of being loved, being seen, belonging? Have you ever referred to this congregation as my church family? What could be wrong with that? Well, I started asking myself that question after attending a workshop at General Assembly in June, a follow-up to the Foz lecture from last year's GA, in which Paula Cole-Jones proposed that Unitarian Universalists could use an identity update. That the metaphor of church as family, one that has been around so long that it feels natural, even sacred, no longer serves us. She invites us instead to think of our congregations as a community of communities. Now, I was intrigued by this idea, so I went back and listened to that Foz lecture, wanting to better understand the limitations of the family metaphor. Jones asked whether any of these attributes of family resonated. See if they do with you. All families have a structure, often a pecking order. There's a narrow lineage, and everyone knows where the authority is. Furthermore, spoken or unspoken, we all know who we can bring home and who we cannot. Think about your own families, particularly your family of origin. Was there a pecking order? Did everyone know where the authority was? Some of us come from the era of father knows best, or just wait until your father comes home. Dad was the decider about small decisions and large, from what TV show we would watch to where we would live. Or perhaps yours was a matriarchy with a mother who wielded the most power and authority, whose opinion mattered more than anyone else's and whose approval was most sought after. And then come the children. Often the pecking order is determined by birth order, from the oldest to the youngest, but not always. I was the second of 4, with 3 girls in a row. That meant that the hand-me-down clothes I got were only slightly worn, my poor little sister. But the youngest, our little brother, seemed to get special treatment. At least it seemed to us. Whatever the order in the hierarchy, there were always unspoken rules and understandings of whose needs were met first, who got first choice. My sisters and I were just reminiscing on which piece of chicken we always ate. One got a wing, one the back, and one a drumstick. Talk about a pecking order. Who was the decider in your family? What was the pecking order? What was your place in the pecking order, and how did it feel to be in that place? More to the point, is that the way we want our congregations to be? If we see our congregations through the lens of family, then it might seem natural, unquestioned, that there be a pecking order, a hierarchy. That some people have more privilege, power, and authority, which means that some people have less. Then there's the matter of narrow lineage, of who belongs. In our reading, Beverly Harrison speaks to this limitation of the family metaphor. She writes, to some extent, the metaphor encourages us to equate community with biogenetic connections and ethnicity, and worse, by extension, with shared culture and the comforts of cultural familiarity. Biological familialism leads us to presume that community is present when similarity and shared culture is present. Biogenetic connection and ethnicity, similarity and shared culture. In other words, our church family is made up of people like us. However, us is defined. For too many churches, us is defined, at least in part, by race, ethnicity, and culture, which is perhaps why, as Martin Luther King Jr. lamented decades ago, it is appalling that the most segregated hour of Christian America is 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. As we Unitarian Universalists work to dismantle white supremacy and aspire to create a truly multicultural, multiracial, and anti-oppressive faith, seeing our congregations through the lens of family can stymie our efforts. Because in a family, spoken or unspoken, we all know who we can bring home and who we cannot. The family metaphor isn't sounding so good, is it? At least if we consider these aspects, and not just the ones that make it so attractive. The sense of being seen, being loved, and belonging. Now, Paula Cole Jones didn't discount those positive aspects, saying that the family metaphor is a beautiful sentiment, but it doesn't work as a vision. It centers individualism. Our congregations are seen as a group of individuals. We so honor the individual that we can enable a toxic individualism and then feel helpless to call it into accountability. Toxic individualism. We've seen some of that lately, haven't we? I think of all those people who protest mandates to wear masks. They believe their individual liberty to not wear a mask overrides the community's need to stop the spread of the virus. But that individualism isn't just out there. It is endemic to our Unitarian Universalist congregations. It's even enshrined in our principles, starting with the inherent worth and dignity of every person. In the congregational setting, it can play out as individuals focusing more on their own needs than on the needs of the whole community. Think back to any big conflicts or kerfuffles in the history of your congregation. Can you think of times that individuals focused more on their own needs than the good of the whole? So, if we are to move away from the family metaphor, what might we move toward? Paula Cole Jones suggests seeing a congregation not as a family of individuals, but as a community of communities. Instead of centering the individual, she suggests centering the smaller groups within a congregation that already exist. Groups that come together for different reasons and are held together by common interest or experiences. Groups that provide their members with the same sense of belonging, of being seen and being loved that a family might provide, but are focused on the well-being not just of the individuals, but the group as a whole. Think of the smaller communities within your congregation. Those that focus on a particular ministry of the congregation, like the RE community, made up of children, parents, and the volunteers and staff who make it all happen. Or the choir, all the people who make music, not just for Sunday morning, but for the love of making music and being together. Or any of the many different committees, including worship, membership, finance, even the board. Those groups that meet because of their age or stage in life, like the elders or young adults, singles, parents of small children. Those who gather to learn and grow, like covenant or small group ministry groups, book and discussion groups, meditation, yoga, or to share common interests like quilters or writers. I could go on, but it's clear that we already have many communities within our larger community. Thinking of our congregations as a collection of communities, rather than a collection of individuals, can help us to get away from toxic individualism and focus on our collective health and growth. Thinking of our congregations as a collection of communities rather than individuals can protect us from some of the negative aspects inherent in the family metaphor. The unspoken but powerful hierarchies and pecking orders. The narrow lineage that can make our congregations insular. The unspoken rules on who we can bring home. As Paula Cole Jones said, seeing ourselves as a community of communities better reflects today's reality that changes the dynamic in our churches and our institution and makes room for diversity. A community is invested in the well-being of individual members as well as the collective. And one exciting characteristic of communities is that they have the potential to grow themselves. Individuals within the community feel a sense of belonging, shared identity, safety, and empowerment. And that just might translate to a greater sense of wanting to invite people in. Because we are all having to reinvent our congregations and the ways we gather, now is the perfect time for examining old metaphors and imagining new paradigms for who we are and how we want to be in the world. Let's shift our focus from the idea of one big family to the many communities already within our congregations, to move away from unhelpful hierarchies and unintentional insularity. As we adapt to the constraints put on us by COVID-19, let us be intentional about empowering and opening up the smaller communities within our congregations to foster the sense of belonging we all crave. And while we're at it, we can also begin to see our individual congregations as part of a much larger community of communities. We've already begun with the sharings of sermons like this one, and plans are in the works for shared adult faith development offerings. Imagine what we could do together. We are family. Thinking back, my memory of dancing in the dormitory to Sister Sledge is a better analogy than I imagined. There we were, dancing in a tight circle, each taking our turns in the center, in the spotlight. I wonder now who might have been outside the circle, who didn't have a place in the pecking order, who didn't fit into our narrow lineage. Who were we leaving out? I think it's time to find a new song.
not stop singing. We will not stop singing till the world can hear the song, till the world can sing along. We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching till the world can hear the song, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along.
We will not stop praying. We will not stop praying. We will not stop praying till we all can get along, till the world can sing our song. We will not stop shouting. We will not stop shouting. We will not stop shouting. Shouting right from wrong till the world can sing our song. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along. We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing till the world can hear our song, till the world can sing along.
We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts, with its message of love and justice, taking it outside our walls to the world we live in until we are together again. May the love that gives to life its beauty, the reverence that gives to life its sacredness, and the purposes that give to life its deep significance be strong within each of us and lead us into ever deepening relationships with each other, with the other, and with all of life. May it be so. And namaste.